short-term rentals are like a cash flow machine. They're like the ATM sitting right out there that you don't have to put your debit card into. You young folks, Ace, and all these others that are really young, I think if I had to do this over, I would just generate half a dozen or 10 Airbnbs, and you'll have probably financial independence at a young age. Now, Alisha has been coming to Dealmaker for like 5 years. And when she began coming, she did not have financial freedom.
That's right.
And now she does.
I do.
At 32 years old. So, all right, I don't mean to put you on the spot or share your personal story, but I have seen it also. And if you can do it, can most anyone do it?
Absolutely. I totally believe it. I've carved out my path through short-term rentals and corporate housing rentals, but it didn't start out that way. I started bootstrapping. I thought I was the only investor in Huntsville, Alabama who was flipping houses. I didn't know of anybody else, and you know what? It's come full circle. This is where I've landed, and I'm so happy I'm here because it's brought my family. It's brought us financial freedom and peace, and I got a 2-year-old who enjoys
Rowan,
that.
At 2 years old, Rowan's already reading and all this. I just blown away. And Alisha is also very modest, but she's a phenomenal designer as well. And if you haven't connected with Alisha, make sure that you do. As she gets that up, is that not working?
Yeah, help me out.
I'll help you out.
All right.
Jeff's coming up. Hey, I am thinking of Mark from Maui. Where is Mark? Did he walk out? Okay. Have you guys met Mark and his wife who came all the way from Maui? Right? Mm-hmm. It's a long ways to come to Dealmaker. I think it's the furthest we've ever had somebody fly in. We've also got somebody from Montreal who's also in Inner Circle. If you're in here, raise your hand.
How do you okay.
So we've got people, there we go, right there, stand up, from Montreal. So I just want to highlight some of you guys. And so we have like California, Montreal, Hawaii. Well, maybe we should do a Dealmaker in Maui. I'm just saying. Doesn't that sound pretty good? All right. There was my stall. Are you ready to go?
I am.
On your
totally
hands,
ready.
on your hands, on your feet, and a big round of applause for Alisha Merriman.
Well, thank you, everyone, and welcome to Dealmaker. How many of you guys are active Airbnb or short-term rental, furnished rental hosts currently? Raise your hands. All right. How many of you are corporate housing rental hosts? All right, a little bit less. And how many super hosts are in the room? All right, very nice. Well, guys, this speech is about how to optimize your short-term rental profit centers, okay? So my name is Alisha Merriman, and you can find out more information about me at alishamerriman.com, and I am from beautiful Huntsville, Alabama. Here is that disclaimer. This is basically based on my personal experience, my personal growth, and this isn't legal advice, right? Educational purposes only. All right, guys, so I hear a lot that people, they don't want to get into Airbnb because they don't want to be in the hospitality, service industry, that it's creating a lot of work. That's really not true. But outside of that, the biggest thing is the income. If every standard landlord is honest about it after repairs, so maintenance, property tax, everything that adds up, you're only bringing home, normally for most landlords, between $150 and $350 a month, right? So a lot of those guys actually make their money back by doing things like refis. But in the Airbnb space, Airbnb hosts make on average about $924 a month in the US. Now, 10% of Airbnb hosts earn $2,000 or more per month. Now, just so that you know, if your house qualifies, such as like a cabin or a yurt or a tree house or a unique stay of any type, for a Airbnb under the unique experience category, those houses or properties nationally average over $9,000 a month. Wow, that's intense. So how many of those would it really take for you to find financial freedom? So this right here, this is Brian Chesky. He's the CEO of Airbnb. I really think he's just the figurehead, guys. But for the second quarter of 2002 demonstrates that we have achieved growth and profitability at scale. Quarter two revenue is up more than 70% since quarter two of 2019. So as much as that is wonderful, a lot of people are saying, well, Airbnb, it's a dying business, right, because of COVID and everything else. That is furthest thing from the truth. It's actually gone the other way. Not only does that go to show that, but also the question that comes to my mind is, what about saturation? Yeah. Are we oversaturating the market? So that's a huge problem. I recently did a one-on-one consult with a lady, and she had inherited a house in Opp, Alabama, little bitty nowhere town, and now all of you are going to go hunting in Opp, but it's in southern Alabama. And whenever I ran the financials, the data, the metadata on this property through airdna.co, Mashvisor, and a few others, I found out that that little bitty rural town, they had like some kind of rattlesnake rodeo, these all-star baseball games. There was all kinds of draws to this town. Only a few Airbnbs, and they were averaging $120 a night, and they were booked out 2 and 3, 4 months, fully booked. And that's just mind-boggling to me. So the fact that you're not buying in a densely populated area, don't let that stop you, because these rural areas on Airbnb that don't have the same type of saturation are performing really, really well. All right, let's see. And while we're talking about saturation, I want to just touch on something else. Every large city, or not every, but several of them, you can see quite a few of them here, Los Angeles, Las Vegas, New Orleans, Atlanta, Jacksonville, Florida, they have been really cracking down on people about regulations and travel restrictions. We've seen this, which makes getting into the Airbnb space pretty daunting, right? And actually 2 of these areas, I think it's San Francisco was where the very first Airbnb was, and they've cracked down. New York City, they've cracked down, and they have more Airbnbs than any other city in the United States. So the irony there, right? But there are solutions to both of these problems. Is Airbnb profitable? In 2022, there's 7 million listings worldwide, 2 million hosts on Airbnb worldwide, and 60% of its users are millennial. They're trading in their golden handcuffs. What are golden handcuffs, you guys? Golden handcuffs are their W-2 positions. These people or these young people, they're no longer tethered to their jobs. They want to be virtual, they want to be mobile, and we need to, if that's our target market, that's our clientele, we need to speak their language. We need to give them what they're looking for. So the most, how do we say this? The highest trafficked listings, they provide things like lifestyle photo. What's a lifestyle photo? Well, it's a picture of somebody pouring coffee, right? It's a picture of somebody walking up and opening the front door. It has human beings in action in the photos. Twilight photos. So what does the space look like at dark? Does it have an outdoor experience where people can go and sit on a patio, right? Providing a nice desk area matters. You don't have to provide a computer or anything like that, or even a printer, but you do need to provide at least an Ethernet cable. Why? A lot of these individuals who have government jobs, they're not really in the position to be able to stream over Wi-Fi. They need a direct connect, all right? Selfie station. So we have a friend out in, I think she's out in Texas, where it's a Laughing Llama farm, and she actually has like a basket of houses or hats inside her house, and out front she has a llama, and she tells the individuals who come stay with her to go get a hat out of the basket, go outside, and take a picture with the llama and tag the farm, right? When she does that, what is she doing? She's creating massive amount of marketing for herself behind the scenes, right? So a selfie station, or maybe even just a really pretty wall, right? Where people can get in front of it and tag your Airbnb. Allowing pets, I had a hard time with this, guys, and it comes up a little bit more later on, but I am allowing pets now because of the number, at some of my properties, just the number of travelers that are taking their fur babies with them. Here we are. Local honey hole activity guides, so being able to provide a list inside your house of things to do locally. and 3D floor plans. That's what you see right here. You can order this for $15 on Fiverr, Fiverr.com. That's also where you can find a lot of your virtual assistants just for gigs, right? All right, so short-term rental survival training. Everyone knows, you know, there are tons of normal hosts out there, and then the super hosts. So there are super hosts who we refer to as hectic hosts. After they get to like 2 to 3 listings, they really start panicking. They become overwhelmed because they never put the correct systems in place for their Airbnbs. And then there are autopilot super hosts. That's me, yeah? Got everything on autopilot. And then Airbnb Plus. So that is an actual position in Airbnb that most of you have probably never even heard about. Those are individuals with houses in particular areas, particular photos, very, very specific niche. And their ideal clientele are people like politicians, celebrities, right? That's who's coming to stay at their houses. So I fall into this superhost category of 20.2% of all Airbnb hosts are superhosts. All right, so let's talk about the autopilot superhost. Many falsely believe that this is actually just for larger companies. That is not true. I don't care if you have one property. Ideally, you go through these hoops to have several properties. But even with just one, automating the process just drastically changed my life, you guys. When COVID hit, I lost $42,000 that very first week in March. And they're sitting here saying, we're going to flatten the curve. I said, there's not too many weeks that I mean, I've got runway, but I don't have that kind of runway. And it terrified me. And I actually went through a transition where my houses were, I started selling them, and I bought them in a different tax bracket location. But whenever I scaled down, I did that with the intention to rebuild better. And I did. I came back with artificial intelligence, which is concentrated labor. If you're willing to pay for a good employee, and yet you feel terrified about spending $100 a month on an application, then don't get in this business, because every host out there will have to pivot. No longer are the days where you can just throw a room on Airbnb. Maybe you can, and maybe you'll do all right. But the market is getting competitive, and your listing has to stand out. And unless you want to become one of those hectic hosts, you have to give into these systems and automate. So let's just take one house, for example. I get that property, and I put it into my system. And my system are just several different applications I use, and I'll log that house in. And then my goal is to hand it off after it's operating for about 30 days. I'll hand it off to either employees, which is what I used to have, or a team of VAs. I have recently transferred from employees to this team of VAs. We're doing our onboarding and training right now. And you know what that allowed me to have? It allowed me to have more houses. I could grow my properties. I got peace of mind, okay? I was able to spend more time with my child. And it's almost embarrassing to tell all of you this, but I've only set an alarm clock a handful of times this year. I don't have to. I've gotten my freedom back, and it's all been because of the systems and operation of automation I've put in place. Being able to vacation and making more money. All right, so I call this the I got my life back tool bag. If there was a slide that you took a picture of, this is the slide that you should grab your phone and take an image of. I have never disclosed publicly what applications I use personally. These are the main ones. These are not all of them, but these are the main ones. Why have I not disclosed before? Because I have a list of 107 options that you can choose from in different categories. It's massively confusing and overwhelming. But I never wanted to monopolize these companies because it's just what I chose. You can choose anything you want. But today I've decided to disclose the ones I use. So let's just say you list your house on Airbnb, VRBO, and Booking.com. You can merge those properties into an application. I've chosen Hospitable. It's formerly known as SmartBnB, but Hospitable. And from there, I can set up automatic guest communication as well as my Sledge auto locks. What happens there? when a guest books, they instantly will get a message, right? They get a series of timed messages. And on the day of their reservation, whenever it's time for them to check in, the codes automatically change to the last 4 digits of their phone number. I don't even know them unless I look them up. I don't have to do a single thing. And then that reservation rolls down and it gets tagged by Turnover B&B. Turnover B&B, it manages all my cleaners and the inventory. So their checklist of what to do at each property, they have to put in inventory that I've set up, and they have to send me that list before they get paid. The application pays them. So no longer are the days where I'm screenshotting them the calendar, sending it to them, having to have this conversation back and forth. I see all you shaking your head. You've been there, right? Like, you're like, yeah, I do that. No, integrate Turnover B&B, and that will get done automatically. You're not going to have to send them funds afterwards. When they hit complete job, it will send them the money for that cleaning. Of course, you can ask for photos in the app and check behind them, right? Pricelabs.co. This is a revenue management software. And let me tell you about how drastically this changed my life, guys. I thought I was the only corporate housing company in the field at the time. I was pulling data. I'd look at my neighbors' properties and their prices. I thought I was setting prices pretty well. When I started putting Price Labs, whenever I integrated to that application, and it's cheap. It's extremely inexpensive. I think at the time it was $6 per property for me to use this. It's a data aggregator. That means that it pulls data from a communal level. When there is an event happening at the local civic center, your price goes up. When your neighbors' properties get booked, your price goes up. It's pulling data on a micro scale close to you. You could not pay an employee to sit there and adjust the price every 15 minutes for forever for $6 an hour, $8 an hour. That's all, the entire month, that's how much it costs, just one time. Across my portfolio, and my heart sank knowing how long I left money on the table. I increased my revenue by $10,000 a month, almost $10,000 a month, by integrating this one application. It will drastically change your life if you do not have some form of revenue management software. Stessa, so that is an accounting application. Outside of this, I have a direct booking site I built on GoDaddy, and then I do direct marketing back to Hospitable. All right, so what can be automated? Responding to guests, adjusting rental pricing, updating your booking calendar, right? Writing guest reviews, coordinating with cleaners and the inventory, basic bookkeeping, and the key exchange management. So any part that I have to play in that process still, I am now offhanding to my virtual assistants. I'm going to tell you something else that's, diving a little bit transparency with me here. I've recently let go of 3 employees. And that was a pivotal decision, and it scared me, right? Because these were big individuals in my company. I brought back, by trading those individuals, physical individuals, by finding a solution in the digital realm and using virtual assistants, $7,800 a month came back to my company. Whoa. Yeah. I should have done it years ago. What's wrong with me? I knew it was out there, but I really didn't, what Tom Berry said, hire slow, fire fast. I should have let them go sooner. I knew the options were out there, but I didn't want to hurt relationships. I didn't want to hurt their family, but it was hurting me in exchange. All right, so everyone asks this. Y'all say, well, how much do these applications cost? Like, didn't you see what I labeled that thing? I got my life back tool bag? Come on, guys. For real? All right. Yeah, so Hospitable is like $13 per property, Price Labs $18, Turnover B&B $8, Stess is free, sledging code you buy at one time. Airbnb for most hosts is 3%. Now, if you are a professional superhost, that could change, right? But on average, the more houses you got, the more of a discount you get. So let's talk about the death of this game. What is it? It's vacancy. So you are avoiding vacancy at all cost. And one way to do that is retargeting your audience to increase reservations. So you can use an app, a marketing tool called Bird Eye, And then you can get a call center, a virtual one. So I'm going to point you towards choosing one from the Philippines. Why? They speak English very clearly, right? They're very affordable. So hiring a call center and then direct booking website. Getting all this in sync, and do one demo with Bird Eye, and you'll learn that that is very affordable and how much it will increase your traffic. StayFi, so StayFi, that's another application that you can go to, and they collect every single email address of every single guest that comes there and stays at your property. What's the chances of you actually being able to send that guest a message during the lull, right? During December, January, when people aren't traveling as much, and let them know, hey, I'm willing to give you a 10% discount, and them come back to you, right? And where's the 10% coming from? Do you have to slash? You don't necessarily have to, but for me, as a professional superhost, once I pay out to all these different platforms for processing, such as Airbnb, processing payments, everything else, I've already made that money, right? So recently expired invited guests. What does that mean? If you are an Airbnb host, you know this, you know what that is. You get to accept an invite from someone who's inquiring about a potential reservation. Well, sometimes those lapse. In other words, they're only given 24 hours to have that opportunity to book with you. I have several times after their invitation has expired, I write them back and I say, look, this reservation dates are still open. We would love to have you come back and consider staying with us. And they do. It really, I think that they just forget about it and then the invitation expires, you know? All right, so there are seasons to this game. For us, most of our portfolio operates on two words that might sound scary. One, short-term rental. And then on the other side is extended stay rental, also referred to as corporate housing rental. Often it's referred to that way. So corporate housing rental is something like 29 days or more, and short-term rentals are normally 28 days or less. So look it up in your state and find out what, standard, what is it here, Jim? Tenant, landlord, 29 days plus extended stay? 30 plus, okay. So right there, and what we do is during the winter when the months are slower and we're not earning as much on the short-term rental space, we try to get in these extended stay guests, so traveling nurses, right? This is how we avoid the lulls in the business. Everyone knows where they're going to be come Christmas, guys. They know they're not going to be traveling all over the place, so avoid that dead time. And this isn't true for all markets. Of course, there are winter destinations that they're busiest, but for the most part, that's not true across the nation. It hasn't been true for the consults that I've held with people whenever we evaluate different markets. When I evaluate markets, when you evaluate markets, never do it based on more than an 80% occupancy. That's generally a safe zone. So if it's $100 a night, times that by 24 nights to come out for the monthly total. Play it safe is what I'm telling you. 24 nights is the 80% occupancy rate. All right, so whenever we are marketing for short-term rentals, we're on 3 platforms for the most part: Airbnb, VRBO, and Booking.com. Let's not make this confusing. If you are on 7 platforms, you should be able to avoid vacancy. If you cannot avoid vacancy on these 7 platforms, you have a problem and we need to talk, okay? 7 platforms. So short-term rentals, Airbnb, VRBO, Booking.com, and extended stay rentals, you can also put yourself on Facebook Marketplace, Zillow, Apartments.com, and Furnished Finders. All right, so some Airbnb listing cheat sheets. How did I get this list? Experience. I got the scar. I want you to get the lesson without the scar. So what's worth it? And this is going against things I've said in the past, guys. I used to be a strict refund cancellation policy for my guests. I'm now flexible. Why am I flexible? Because Airbnb, when they did their recent update in the algorithm, they highly, highly favor hosts who have the flexible status. It doesn't happen enough to hurt me. So maybe, 5 to 8% of bookings might cancel, but then they always fill back up, so I'm not too worried about it. So change it to flexible cancellation status. And in these 3 categories, a few people in the back can't read it. This one's worth it, what's not worth it, and what's up to you. Instant book self-checkout, that's also one that is triggered in the algorithm. You want to allow self-check-ins, and you want to allow instant bookings. Now, with instant bookings, you need to turn on every single toggle that protects you. What does that mean? It means a verified guest, somebody who has uploaded their license, somebody who has to respond to a message, your welcoming message, they have to respond to it. And I've had some dirty comments come back to me on that instant message. Do you think they got approved? No. So, yeah, mine says like, welcome to Huntsville, what brings you? And I've had people sit there and tell me, none of your business. And I'm like, ooh, you feisty, Availability, all future dates. That's another one, triggers the algorithm. These are worth it. Now, you don't really want to open up all future dates. So go back into your calendar and block out those dates manually. As simple as that. But at least you turned on this toggle to trigger it in the algorithm. I see a lot of you are shaking your heads like, oh gosh, we gotta fix it all. At least 1 day's notice. So you can set up your reservations to where they come in and you give yourself a buffer. Why do you want at least 1 day's notice? You're preventing parties, guys. Local staycations. What does a staycation normally mean when they're booking for 1 day and they're doing it the same day that they're traveling? They're going, hey, do you want to have a party? Yeah, but let's not have it here. Let's book an Airbnb. Okay. That is a local person. And a lot of times their profiles used to say where they were from. No, Airbnb took that off. You can't see where they're from anymore. So you need, most cases you can't see unless they say it in their profile. But yes, set it to at least 1 day's notice to protect yourself. Minimum stay, all, but less than 1 night. So what do I mean by that? You can set your minimum stay to 1 night or more. Now listen to me carefully. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. So Sunday through Wednesday, you can set it to 1 night staycations or 1 night vacations. And on Thursday, 2 nights bookings are allowed. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, 3 nights. You're protecting yourself again. You used to not be able to have the opportunity to say how many nights they had to stay to make the reservation, but they've recently updated that. And it's a beautiful, beautiful feature. I wish they would have done it years ago because I had mine set to 3 nights or more because I was trying to protect myself for those Friday, Saturday, Sunday night parties, right? So Airbnb smart pricing, that is dumb pricing. Do not use Airbnb smart pricing. Let me tell you about that. Airbnb is nothing more than a fancy window dressing for a checkout counter. They're a payment processing platform. They don't own any houses, right? They're not the ones with the risk and the house rules. No, they're a fancy checkout station. And who's their customer? The one who pays. It's the guest. The guest will always win in a dispute unless you know their rules. So with that being said, you need to read the terms and services and know the rules that are applicable to you. But whenever it comes down to smart pricing, they're trying to get some money every night. Even if that means dropping your price down to $30 that night, they're going to collect a fee on that as opposed to zero, right? They were going to make nothing. They don't care about what the marketing is or what you could have made. No, their goal is to get people in that house. That's it. And they're going to collect. But the lower your price, the more undesirable the guests you are attracting. Oh, see, a lot of people shaking their heads. You've had that experience. So don't be that. Don't be that host. All right, discounts. So whenever you first crank up your Airbnb account, they highly encourage you to allow 3 discounts, right? Or first 3 bookings to have a discount. Don't fall for that. You don't have to. In most markets, as that day draws closer, you will get it booked, okay? If you are priced correctly, especially if you're using something like pricelabs.co. How that works is they set a really high price, 30 days and more out. As that price draws closer, let's just say if it was $100 per night on day 30, as the day drew near, they dropped it about $1 per night. Now, you're not going in there and going to be manually adjusting that every single day. Allow the automation to take care of it. And I'm telling you, Price Labs is right on it with what your nightly price should be. Up to you. All right, so pets, that's on you guys, but I'll tell you, I got an application called Rank Breeze, and I was allowed to do something called journaling, and I journaled the difference. I wanted to know the difference in what my listings brought in, allowing pets versus not allowing pets. That data has come back to me now, and I've realized that I allowed between 12 and 15% of all my viewers, all the people who landed on my page who booked somewhere else, and the reason that they booked somewhere else was because they allowed pets. So at some properties, I am allowing pets now. Increase the number of occupants. So can you do something, as long as you're okay with it, of course, to increase the number of occupants who can stay at that property? So I'm not saying add an entire bed or add a couch with a pull-out. Don't go that far. It ain't that deep. Add something like a Japanese floor mattress. These are very, very common. They're getting more popular in Airbnbs. And it is literally a type of memory foam mattress that rolls up and it's got a strap around it, and you just tuck it away in the closet. This will allow you to have 2 more occupants, right? And you can ask more per night. And up to you, a pre-booking message, I highly encourage it, okay? All right, deciding on whether to accept or reject a reservation. So there is a Chrome extension called Air Review, and Air Review actually comes for free with, if you get the Rank Breeze app, you get forever access to it. But Air Review allows you to do something that a lot of people don't have access to, but I wish I had known this sooner. It allows me to read the guest who's inquiring to book with me. I can read their previous reviews of hosts. Ooh. So let me tell you this. If they've had 9 2-star and 3-star reviews, what makes you think you're going to be the 10 that gets a 5? You're not. You're not going to be. So that's just something to consider, guys. If they're very, very critical hosts, then maybe you should consider adding the Air Review extension. As well as, on Air Review, they have something that's called an instant market data. You can click on that, and I'll say it's semi-accurate. It really depends on the month of the year for that area, but it's a minor data aggregator, but it allows you to see their occupancy rate, the dollar per night in the future for that host. So you kind of get a little glimpse of what's to come for that area in case you're judging the area. It's a really cool little extension. Guest verification. So now these 3 are the leading providers for guest verification: Operato, Enzo Connect, and Journey. What does that mean? When your guest is going through the booking process on Airbnb, it shoots them to another page where they have to input personal data, and it instantly pulls up this data, right? And you get to know, oh, are they on the, any kind of bad list? Have they had a bankruptcy? Like, you just kind of get a little bird's eye view of what type of person this is, and they give you a score of whether or not they would book this individual. If you have 25 properties or more, there is a more sophisticated piece of technology for that. If you want to talk about that, just let me know, and I'll tell you what that technology is. Jim, we talked about this last time. Someone asked, when they decided on whether or not to decline a reservation, Jim's answer was clear: just say no. We have the right to say no, but I'll tell you what I say, mine is a no. I am uncomfortable with this reservation. You don't say why because you get into a back and forth battle with them. You don't say why because you do not want to discriminate, okay, for any reason. You don't want to discriminate against a pet or the fact that they're there for a wedding or for a funeral or for anything. Just say, I am uncomfortable with this reservation, and end it there. That's simple enough. And Airbnb accepts that, by the way. They're fine with that. Leaning out, guys. So I have been going through this process currently because I am at the pinnacle of my portfolio. As I'm doing this handoff process to these new individuals, these VAs, a professional hospitality team, And maybe at the next deal maker, I'll disclose who that company is that I'm working with for $4 an hour. Ooh, yeah, 10, 15 years experience, $4 an hour, yep, 24-hour team. But I have been leaning out the business. I'm growing the business, and I'm leaning it out. Things such as reducing taxes. I am buying in different zones. I am literally trading my portfolio from a 14% area, which is 9% city, 5% state, and I've moved it to a 1% area. But keep in mind, that shift, I am now 1/8 of a mile. Most of my properties are 1/8 of a mile from that other tax zone, from that other area. And so what do I have? I have the same exact occupancy rate. The people are willing to travel, and I'm happy to have them. So buy in a different zone. Reduce your utilities. So you can do things like add solar. You can add mini split units, right? These are really popular. They even make mini split units that come with a solar panel. Oh, right? Even better. Swap out your two LED bulbs. You can add a thermostat. Specifically, there's one called Ecobee. And you want to be generous, but you can set the ranges for the temperatures within the unit so people don't freeze up the unit during the dead of summer or anything else, right? You can put all the expenses that you'd be paying anyways, put them on a credit card. You can earn points, money back, be responsible. But this is something I'm doing. Instead of me just paying out of my operating expense account, like what David Richter said, I'm paying directly onto the credit card and paying that off. But I'm getting a kickback for it. Monthly flat rate contracts instead of paying by the property, such as like lawn care. So you know you have this many properties that all have to be taken care of every 10 to 14 days. Well, just do that on a monthly contract and, drop storage facilities. So no longer do I pay for storage. This makes me laugh because my husband, he's so tired of moving furniture. If y'all are in short-term rentals, Airbnbs, you understand this, the collecting of furniture. But we now use all the garages at our properties. They rent just the same. Very few people have that super nice Tesla or that they really care about having that garage. So we keep all the garages for even company storage, like for tools and stuff. Save on rental collection fees. So you can do things like using apartments.com, right? These applications allow you to collect direct booking rents without having to pay any kind of fee. All right, some Superhost tips. Set your Wi-Fi passwords to 5-star stay. Everybody's pin went down. What a simple thing, right? 5-star stay. That's what ours are. Read the terms and services. So Airbnb is constantly shifting, but know your rights. When you handle a claim, let me give you some experience that I've went through. Experiences. Get to them first. When you get that little gut feeling like, oh, this is not looking good, this don't feel right, something feels off, you call customer service first. Tip number 1. Tip number 2, know the rules in the terms and service. Screenshot that terms and service of what the guest did that violated their terms and service. Third thing, if you had it listed in your house rules, you need to list your house rules like this. You need to say the rule and the consequence. So no parties or events. If they break that rule, it constitutes cancellation of this reservation with no refund. So I said the rule and I said the consequence. If you can screenshot that and send that to this ambassador in Airbnb, you will win every single time. But know the terms and services. You're a business owner. Know the rules that you play under, okay, guys? And then the allowing pets. So as of 2020, Airbnb, they started pushing in the algorithm, hosts that allow pets by 90%. I struggle with that one, guys, but yeah, that's it. This is me and my daughter. This is who I work for. Yes, that's her. Yeah, guys, she's the reason I do everything that I have done, and I really, really, I've created a life. I've created a legacy, actually, that I can give her, and I'm very grateful. I'm offering some free one-on-one 30-minute Zoom consults to anyone who is a new Airbnb host. If you've already got a host account or you're already been doing this thing, then no, it's not going to pass. But whenever you get on AlishaMerriman.com, I will allow 25 people to book a 30-minute free consult with me. So I appreciate your time. And Jim, do we have any questions? Time for questions?
Yes.
All right.
Who's got an aha moment or a question? Who's already doing Airbnb? Paul, you have one?
More of a comment. Have you tried petscreening.com for when you're using pets? Because they.
I have done it a few times, and I did it really for my people who were coming to my consults, because prior to just recently, I said no to everyone. But on that, if you're going to allow pets and you're going to do the petscreening.com, do it to every single pet, because you do not want a fair housing violation. So not just one or two, do it
We're
to them all.
pet friendly. Wherever I can, I'm always pet friendly. It's been good for me. Anybody have a question? Well, hello.
Lots of questions today. Have you noticed the difference on like multifamilies, like renting out like a duplex versus single family home for it?
Sure. So I've got 2 duplexes and a triplex. Overall, what I've noticed is that it's worth it. Let's start with that. So that's the overall arching. But on traffic, not dollars per night, but on vacancy rate, I'm about 10 to 15% lower on my units compared to single family homes. But the numbers still work because I'm renting out too. Yeah. Oh, I have my triplex. It makes between $6,000 and $9,000 per month. Ooh, just one property. I've got 11 units. So last Dealmaker, I only had 8 or 7 live at the time, and now I have 11. I have 4 more in the pipeline, and that's not counting my corporate housing. So just with a couple handfuls of properties, guys, you can create an income that you can retire from. And it all boils down to vetting and managing those properties correctly. I told you that I fired my employees, so that means that yours truly is traveling. Yours truly is managing these. I have 20 to 30 turnovers per week, and I don't struggle. I don't take phone calls. I don't have to be on my phone. It's a beautiful place to be because I can depend on this automation.
That's a great question. I happen to love doing duplexes and triplexes on short-term rentals and corporate both. It's been really good for me.
You split those with long-term and short-term next to each other, or do you stick with both?
Do you split them, or do you do just corporate or just short-term?
So I have some that are strictly like 12-month standard rentals, not furnished. My furnished rental portfolio. So I have some that are strictly corporate housing just because I like it better because they're bigger houses and I don't want to attract the nightly like traffic, right? Because I'm asking for parties whenever I have a 3, 4, 5 bedroom house. My target market property is a 1, 2, maybe 3 bedroom or smaller house, less than 1,500 square feet.
Same.
Because you're the same. Some people are the opposite. But on those properties that I allow both, yes, during the winter time, so November through February, I do allow extended stay reservations, and I prefer them because it's the lull. But through the rest of the year, I'm aiming for short-term rental income because I'm going to earn about 15% more per night on the Airbnbs. Do both.
Like a long-term rental on one side and then like Airbnb at the other, but I just wasn't sure.
Or you might want a short-term rental both of
Yeah,
them.
you might want to
I've
do
got
short-term
one like
rental
that.
both.
We short-term both sides.
I would too. Jim's right.
You
A lot
just-
of times, if I've done that too, where I have a standard rental on one side and a short-term rental, I always hear flack from the person who is the 12-month rental because it's their home, right? And the other people are coming and going a lot, so.
Good questions. All right, last question. John Morey, Mr. Asbury Village.
I love it.
No shenanigans and no
That's what
salsa
he
dance.
says, guys. That's not true. I know
Hi, guys.
John.
This is just a tip to
Yeah.
add to what you have.
I love it.
There's a thing called corporate housing by owner. Google that.
Yep.
And I sent him the updated report that they put out. It'll tell you which type of is it 1 bedroom or 2 or 3 is more beneficial when it comes to corporate housing.
Absolutely.
So they're actually a competitor of Airbnb, but they branched out into just corporate housing as opposed to doing short-term rentals.
Say it again. Say
It's
that.
called corporate housing by owner. So if
There
you
you go,
Google
guys.
that, and I sent that to Jim before, and he saw that.
Okay? Alisha, thank you so much.
Woohoo!
Really appreciate you very, very much.